Hello and welcome to the Pinfall. We hope you've had an excellent Christmas and depending on when you listen to this, Happy New Year. What a year it's been in 2020 in WWE. On today's show, we are giving out awards. Joining me as always is Barnsey and Jordan. Guys, you have a good Christmas?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, tier 4 for you boys, but luckily being in tier 2, got to see a little bit of the family, so not the usual massive celebrations, but hopefully next year we'll be able to make up for that at some point.
Yeah, it's funny having a few Zoom calls on Christmas Day. But yeah, it's just been one of those years. But yeah, it was a good day. We move on now to hopefully a better 2021.
Yeah, it hasn't been the greatest of years sort of for everyone. But I think WWE haven't done too bad. I'd say it's been a good year, to be honest. On this podcast, we'll be giving out 12 awards, reviewing the year. We saw 11 rounds of draft picks, 10 main roster championships. This is the 9th Pinfall podcast. There was 8 Baszler Royal Rumble eliminations, 7 North American Championship reigns, 6 Intercontinental reigns, 5 NXT takeovers, 4 WWE Championship reigns. This is a 3-man pod, a 2-night WrestleMania, and 1 podcast to review the year.
Oh, Will, you have smashed that, mate. Well done.
That was quality.
Wasted on a pinfall.
That was so good.
Yeah, so like I said, we've got 12 awards to give out tonight. We're going to be discussing them between us and then picking one winner, if we can't agree. So the very first award we'll be giving out, the very first Pinfall Award, is for Best Male of 2020. I'll start this one off. I think this is probably between 3 people, really, and I've gone for Roman Reigns. I feel like I wasn't going to pick him up first because I think he'd obviously been away for about 4 or 5 months, but just since he's come back, he has been like the ultimate star. He's been unbelievable, and everything he touches turns to gold, really. So my vote is for Roman Reigns.
Well, I'll go for one of the other 2 then. I'll actually go for Drew McIntyre. I think since he started off the year obviously by winning the Royal Rumble. One thing that always sticks in my mind is that pop when he Claymore kicked Brock Lesnar out the ring, and then just continued to dominate the Royal Rumble from that point onwards, going to WrestleMania and obviously winning the belt, dismantling Brock Lesnar again. And then, I just feel like he's carried Raw throughout the whole pandemic. He's been the champion pretty much throughout, apart from losing at Hell in a Cell to Randy Orton, but then quickly regaining the belt because I don't think WWE wanted to see Orton versus Reigns at Survivor Series. They'd rather have the main man, old Drew McIntyre. So many good matches. Obviously, he had the ambulance match. I just feel like he has elevated himself to be a top star this year. And so Drew McIntyre is the one who gets my vote. So I suppose, Jordan, you're going to have the final say.
Well, yeah, for me, this was a no-brainer as well. I just went Drew. Everything you just said. And with that Roman Reigns match as well, they teased what could possibly be in the future. And then just for his own personal development, he's almost taken that next step to being the guy on Raw. I don't think anyone else could have led Raw as well as he did during the no crowds and the start of the pandemic. I just think he's been top draw consistently, and I think the longevity of what he's done pips it for me over Reigns.
Yep, so the very first Pinfall Award for Best Male is going to Drew McIntyre.
He'll never win a better award.
Yeah, so the third person I was thinking of was obviously, I don't know if you guys agree, but Randy Orton. He was the other one who come into contention, but yeah, I can live with Drew McIntyre being the winner of this one.
I think any one of them 3, they are going to carry WWE forward into 2021. They're all going to be at the top of the card. They're all amazing, and obviously I suppose we're going to give it to Drew, but Roman's run since SummerSlam has been unbelievable, and if he continues that throughout any period of 2021, then I think he'll be the man that gets it next year.
Brilliant. Right, the next award is for Best Female of 2020. Let's start off with Jord.
I feel like I might ruffle a few feathers with this one. And I am basing this one off because on the blue brand, they could work off each other, but on the red brand, she was doing it alone. And my award would go to Asuka because since Becky announced her pregnancy, she has done double duty. She's been the Raw champ, now a women's tag team champion as well. She's elevated Lana and other wrestlers, and all the while putting on top-notch matches without having that sort of Bayley and Banks had each other. She's done this alone, especially when Kyrie left. So for me, it goes to Asuka.
I'll go slightly different again then. I'm going to go for Sasha Banks. I think she's just tipped it for me at the back end of the year, just with her performances in the Hell in a Cell at TLC against Carmella. She's had to basically run the women's division for me throughout the whole year with Bayley. I think for me it was a toss-up between Bayley and Sasha Banks, actually. I think Asuka's title run has been a little bit, I don't know, for me it's not really hit the spot. I think they could have done a lot more for her on Raw. So for me it was always between Banks and Bayley, and I think I just went Banks just because of the way she's ended the year. She's now obviously got the belt, and I just feel like every time she's in the ring she's improving. She's played the heel, she's played the face now. I think she's got everything. So yeah, for me, Sasha Banks.
Yeah, I also agree. I've gone for Sasha Banks. I just feel that all the best matches for me in WWE this year have probably had Sasha Banks involved. I feel that she absolutely delivers every time. And like Matt said as well, I feel like definitely the last few pay-per-views she's put on some really, really strong performances. And yeah, I feel this year she has been the best female in WWE. So I think that's Sasha Banks winning the best female of the year. Just before we go to the next award as well, I should have probably mentioned this at the start. So basically anyone in Raw, SmackDown and NXT can win any of these awards. So it's not just Raw and SmackDown. So the next award, number 3, we're going for Feud of the Year. And we'll start off with Barnesy in this one.
I was just going to say, imagine the two winners of the first 2 awards had to do what they do at like Wimbledon, for example, where they have a dance at the ball. Imagine it was Sasha and Drew. But yeah, Feud of the Year. I'm going to have to go back to my main man again, Drew McIntyre. And I think that his feud with Randy Orton for me throughout pretty much the whole pandemic is Feud of the Year. Just absolutely elevated one another to the top. I think I said earlier in one of the pods that I think it was just a shame that maybe Orton didn't get one of the wins at a big pay-per-view a little earlier than he did at Hell in a Cell, and then losing the belt so quickly after. They could have made him win maybe at SummerSlam, for example, and then have him hold the belt for a couple of months and then let Drew win it back. I think that would have elevated the feud just even more. But yeah, they had some of the best matches. The match where you never saw it coming, and there was the roll up. We had the ambulance match where we had some nostalgia with the legends. I literally think that this has been the best feud for me.
Okay, I'll go next. I'm going to go for a different feud. I'm going for Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso. Just because I feel that for storytelling, I thought it was perfect. And while I do agree that Orton McIntyre was a really good feud, I just felt that one might have just gone on a little bit too long, where I feel this one was just perfect. Everything about it, the 2 matches where they had on pay-per-view, I just thought it was just really good. I think it was probably, for me, it was the best storytelling we saw on telly this year. So I'm going for Reigns versus Jey Uso.
Well, for the first award this evening, we are all going to have a different answer, and I'm going for earlier in the year. I based this off watching his documentary and knowing he needed the perfect way to end his career. I am going for AJ and the Taker, mainly because I don't think there's anyone in WWE currently who could have helped Undertaker retire the way he did. I thought they brought so much real life Taker to the forefront, and it was just excellent. And in his last Mania match, he made him look $1 million, especially for his age. And I just think for that, AJ is just money. And one of my favourite feuds of the year.
Wow, didn't expect that one, to be honest.
Yeah.
That one's caught me off guard a little bit. I thought that someone might have said Reigns and Uso, because I agree, that was for me the best bit of television over a short period of time. The only reason I went for Reigns and Orton was just because of its longevity throughout the whole year. But now you've mentioned Undertaker, it's definitely added another little.
I think for me with his documentary, and you just watching him, every time he put on a bad match, and especially like Saudi, he just wanted to come back, and it was like, how much more can he take? And then this guy come along, and it was just perfect to end such a legacy. And I don't think there was. I'd still argue the case now. I don't think anyone in WWE could have done it better for the Undertaker. So for me, that's what pipped it.
Yes, I thought someone was going to say maybe Sasha versus Bayley, although it was a bit of a long burner, and then it finally happened. That was my other one I sort of had in the back of my mind, along with McIntyre and Orton. I didn't really think of Undertaker, AJ Styles, actually.
I'm shocked no one went Rollins Mysterio. I thought that must have been up there for someone.
Or Lana and the announce tables as WWE are putting out.
Yeah. Well, does anyone want to change their mind, or does everyone want to stick?
Cool. This is going to be our first contentious award, isn't it? I mean, if I had to change, I would go for Roman and Jay, but I still think that it's McIntyre and Orton. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think for now we'll go with the host, and we'll go Reigns versus Jey Uso. But maybe we'll chuck it out on Twitter on the poll and see what everyone else thinks. But I just think it was just perfect, that feud. And it was fairly recent, so that's why it's probably come to our minds more than some of the others.
The best thing about this, though, mate, is that none of us have conferred answers on any of the awards. So we're going to get to a point where this could happen again. So it'll be interesting to see what the listeners think. Moving forward,
definitely. I think. Well, let's see what we get for the next award. Award number 4 is Match of the Year, and I went for Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre from Survivor Series. For me, this match just felt like it was a big time match. It felt like it was the two best, facing off against each other, a bit like Austin and The Rock. It just felt like it was our era. Here and now, they are the two absolute best. It's the match you want to see. It's the match we want to see again, probably at WrestleMania. And it delivered as well. It was a really, really good match. So my vote is for Reigns and McIntyre. How about you, Arnsey?
I actually went for Reigns for Match of the Year as well, but for his match in Hell in the Cell against Jey Uso. Just because I think that is potentially one of the best matches of all time, not just this year. The storytelling was absolutely spot on. It properly played with all of your emotions. It was like, the culmination of just some great storyline building. The ending was great, even just them walking off and getting properly crowned the head of the table, and it's just developed Reigns' storyline and his character so much. And I think Paul Heyman said it on Talking Smack when he was talking about Kevin Owens. He said the best thing you can say about Roman Reigns now is that no one even mentions that he was in the Shield. He's come away from that. He's now known, he's known as Roman Reigns, the Universal Champ. And yeah, for me, that was just the match of the year.
Well, I never thought about Reigns and McIntyre. That is a good match. I feel like because it was just thrust upon us quite quickly. If it had a bit more of a build, I may have picked it. But for me, I have dipped my toes to the Yellow brand, and I have gone for where history was made at the Great American Bash of Adam Cole versus Keith Lee, and Keith Lee becoming the first ever double champion on NXT. Just the meteoric rise that comes with it with Keith Lee, the storytelling, the match itself, it was just phenomenal. It was the result everyone wanted, and for me, definitely match of 2020.
Yeah, I didn't have that one. For NXT, I was sort of thinking along, maybe because it was more recent, I was going along the lines of Balor and
O'Reilly.
Ooh, yeah.
And there was also another good ladder match as well, wasn't there, for the North American title?
Yeah.
So there was definitely some really good matches in NXT this year.
So many good matches across the, all three brands, especially in, I think the most credit you can give to some of these matches is that you forget there's a crowd there and that they've built it on their own. And I think that as we've gone throughout the year, WWE have adapted to the no crowd situation, and that was one of the reasons that I went for Roman and Jay, because you got for the first time to hear the in-ring, the storytelling from the characters, like literally like where Roman Reigns is, speaking to Jay, and I was just mesmerised by it. It was the first time that you've seen it in wrestling, which is sort of why it gets my vote.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's the amount of top-notch matches that have happened over this year. Even the three just picked now, just all world class. I mean, it's just we're very fortunate to have the luxury of having this selection to choose from. So it was good that we didn't all have the same one, I think, because that would have been a damn shame for some of the other matches not said.
Yeah, I feel like maybe we'll come on to it later on. There'll be some things we haven't been happy with in WWE this year, and maybe on sort of social media, people are very quick to criticise WWE, but I feel this year hasn't, considering all things with COVID and no crowd, I think they've done pretty well this year. I mean, obviously we will discuss it again, but there's been some pretty decent matches, I'd say.
I think as well, with WWE, they are under a bigger microscope than any other wrestling industry just because of who they are. I think if another company did some of the risks that WWE took, they get more credit than WWE get for taking that same risk. Or if it goes the other way, they get, they're so much more under that microscope that these other companies just sort of gets shrugged off a little bit more. It's like, oh, well, at least they're trying. As with WWE, you have to hit the mark with everything. And yeah, quite rightly agree. I think they've adapted so well to what's been forced upon them.
Because I think one of the matches I was going to pick was the Royal Rumble at the very start of the year, because I thought it was probably the best Royal Rumble in maybe ever, but definitely in the last, say, 20 years. But because of the crowd was there, I wanted to sort of pick one where I felt that maybe the wrestlers themselves had sort of made the match rather than the crowd.
What's good about not having the crowd there? Because the crowd can sometimes dictate how well you think a match is going. So the ones without the crowd, that is your own opinion of how you feel it's gone. Because if they're booing it, you sort of side with it, or if they're cheering it, you sort of think like, God, what am I missing? Why is this sort of so good? So having no crowd sort of makes you force your own opinion a little bit.
Yeah, and one thing about the crowd, like when there is a crowd, when there's a good match, sometimes they're like, this is awesome. When I'm thinking it's good, maybe save that for like the really awesome moments. So it's been quite good this year that you can sort of make your own mind up. But I think the ones that we've picked, I think definitely would have got a "this is awesome" chant.
Yeah.
Well, I picked Reigns Uso as my feud of the year, so I'm happy to make it the match of the year as well.
Let's do that.
The house always wins.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree. I thought it was for a Hell in a Cell match. It was different, but it was so good. It was one of my favourite Hell in a Cell matches.
Yeah, the good thing about all the matches that we chose is that no matter what one wins, there's no real wrong answer here. I mean, they were all absolutely epic. Reigns and McIntyre at Survivor Series, like you say, the best versus the best. Let's get that build all the way now. For me, that's what I want to see at WrestleMania. Have a massive build all the way up. The two best in the company on each side of the brands going at it. And then in NXT, I feel like NXT got a little bit unlucky with some of the injuries they had this year, because obviously Karrion Kross was made the champion, and then we had other injuries. But then that also, propelled other stars to the top of the card, like Kyle O'Reilly, for example. Like, he's just come out of nowhere and just been so good this year. And that match he had with Finn Balor, where he broke his jaw, and it went over 40 minutes, just unbelievable match. So yeah, I don't think there's a real loser, but hopefully we get some more barnstorming matches in 2021.
The next award then we go with is the most the next award we're going for is the most improved male. Let's start with George. Who are you going for on this one?
Well, this will shock you both, because my most improved since he's come back, I don't think anyone expected him to be where he is as a superstar now, and that is Roman Reigns. I mean, just the heel work. I don't think anyone thought he had this in him. I mean, before he went away, he was this face top guy. He was all in sort of strange feuds where he was getting like dog food thrown on him, and this has just elevated him. This has taken him to Brock Lesnar level status, where you feel like no one is beating him for the next few years. So for most improved, it definitely has to go to Roman Reigns.
Yep, I also went Roman Reigns for this one. Since he's come back, like you said, he is the best wrestler in the world, I think, on and off the mic. I think it was just such a smart move aligning him with Paul Heyman. And you sort of just, one thing that's been burning in my mind the whole time that he's been this amazing heel is that why they didn't pull the trigger when he beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania a couple of years back and then come out on Raw and did that, 5-minute promo where he didn't say anything. He gets booed out the arena and then he just says, "This is my yard now." At that point, if we knew what we knew now and how good he could be as a heel, I mean, it's sort of, we've waited a long time for this, and yeah, definitely the most improved for me. Yeah. What about you, Wills?
Well, yeah, I didn't actually go with Roman Reigns. I was sort of torn between three, actually, so I might as well just tell you because neither of them are Roman Reigns. So I went for Drew McIntyre because I feel like he's obviously gone from someone who's just on the cusp of being the main event to being the main event to being a well-deserved champion. I also went for Jey Uso because I feel like he was just from being a SmackDown tag champ to now competing for the Universal Championship. I feel he's improved so much. And then on NXT, I was looking at Kyle O'Reilly because for the same reason, he was sort of just a mid-card, and now he's looking like, he's now competing for the NXT Championship in the new year. So I feel them three were decent enough sort of nominations, but I'm happy to go with Roman Reigns. I just felt that he was already sort of a main event player, and I just feel that his other three sort of stepped up to it, but I definitely agree with his sort of becoming like a really good, the best heel in the company now, Roman Reigns.
I was just going to say, for me, I think with Roman Reigns, I don't think there's any person in the world that could have told you he would be this good as a heel. I know we all wanted it to see how he would be and maybe make him a better face when he was one. But there's no one on this earth who could have told you he would be this damn good at it. I like that shout for Jey Uso as well, because he's not only fought Roman in some amazing matches for the Universal title, he's beat some big stars on SmackDown as well. And you look at him now like a proper main eventer. So that's a great shout as well.
Yeah, with Jey Uso, it's going to be interesting when his brother comes back. And obviously, I'd imagine that he's going to be joining Roman Reigns and having the two of them together. So it'd be interesting how Jey, how his character develops in 2021. Like you said, Wobbs, I can't believe that he's now a main event player, really, because he was always, for me, he's probably he's been involved in one of the best tag teams that WWE's ever had. I absolutely love the Usos, so to see him having to go in a singles role and now align himself with Roman, yeah, he's definitely stepped up. But I think the way I interpreted, most improved was just like what George said, just Reigns, man, he's absolute money. And just because I didn't give him the best male, I thought he had to win an award. So this is the one that he gets.
The wooden spoon.
So we've done the most improved male. Let's now go on to the most improved female. Let's start off with Barnsey.
Yeah, okay, I'll go. I'm going to go for Bayley for this one. I think that she obviously took on a new role as well, turning heel, going away from her, sort of massively babyface. Since she's cut her hair and gone as a main heel on SmackDown, I think that she's definitely been one of the best on the mic. It was unprecedented times for everyone, but it felt like she massively stepped up. And obviously it didn't go without Sasha Banks' help, because she obviously played a pivotal role in it as well. But I just feel like she was so good for the women's division this year. But her and Sasha definitely elevated one another. I think it could have been even better if the writing was there for them that was better. And I think she has tailed off slightly at the end of the year. But for me, I'm going to go for Bayley.
And George?
Mine, I have gone back to the yellow brand once again, and Dakota Kai, I feel, to have similar to Bailey, where they were such big baby faces to be a heel. I think she's done it so well, and I think the biggest shame maybe of 2020 on NXT is that she hasn't become the women's champion yet. I think she's excellent, and she is just. I remember watching her grab her NXT award. I can't remember what award she won, and it was just at the start of her heel work, and it was very sort of not the greatest. And ever since then, it's just been an upward spiral with it, and I just think she's incredible, and hopefully she has a women's title around her waist very soon.
So I was torn between two. One of them is one of the ones that you've picked, but I'll say the one that you haven't first. Is Candice LeRae. I think that she's improved massively. Some of the work she does with Johnny Gargano on the mic and in ring as well, I think she's been really, really good. The other one I had was Dakota Kai as well, so she's obviously going to be our winner. And like George said, I just can't believe she hasn't sort of won the championship. She's improved so much. When you think back to last year, she just turned heel. You look at her now and you think that she's been a heel her whole career. She's so good. And yeah, I just can't wait for her to come up to the main roster. I think she's brilliant.
Yeah, I think if there's ever a time for some of the women from NXT to come up to the main roster, it's got to be soon, because you're clutching at straws to get feuds on the main roster with some of the women that are up. And then in NXT, they're absolutely showered with unbelievable talent. So in a way, it's a surprise she hasn't made it to the top yet. But when you look at some of the women she's competing with, obviously Io Shirai, Rhea Ripley, Raquel Gonzalez looks like she's getting a shot now. They're absolutely stacked. So yeah, it's a good time.
I think one thing with Dakota Kai as well is this is sort of over more than a year of the transformation from face to heel. When she was sort of this cowering, really scared of Shayna Baszler and very sort of in her shell, and then she had this street fight with Tegan Nox, which was one of the best women matches on NXT. It just showed how she's gone from this sort of shy, sort of scaredy cat to this really dominant heel who now has an enforcer as well. And I can't speak any more highly of her.
Cool. We'll do one more before we take a break, and we'll go for the most underrated wrestler of 2020, and I'll kick it off. Sami Zayn. I mean, we said it on the last pod to how he's just been taking too many pins recently. He's just massively underrated. I sort of feel that he should be fighting for the championship above. He's so good on the mic, in the ring, that's good that he's got the Intercontinental Championship. I just feel that he just sort of hasn't been presented as sort of a fighting, credible champion. So I'm going to say him.
Mine is Shinsuke Nakamura. I went back the other day and watched his debut on SmackDown, and I honestly suggest you guys do the same, because that intro, even to SmackDown, the goosebumps is just amazing. And when he was on NXT, he was by far my favourite wrestler, and easily still one of the best NXT champions I've watched. And just to see this trajectory he's been on since that Mania defeat to Styles is just so sad. He's so much better than that. He should be a main eventer. He should have been treated like Brock Lesnar when he came up. He's got it all, and I hate it. I want the violin back. I want it all back, and I'd love him to either leave or go to NXT and just become what he used to be, because he is just top drawer, and I just can't believe he's just nothing at the moment.
Yeah, I had two names for this one. One of you said, so I'll go for the other one first. The one I was going to say was Damian Priest. I just think that this year he's elevated himself so much. On a takeover show now, he's definitely a performer that I'm looking out for his match, because I just think the last 3 takeovers he's been in match of the night. And he's sort of come from nowhere for me. I don't know if you two guys were aware of him before 2020, but this year I just feel like he's just done so much. And obviously now, it sort of feels a little bit weird picking him, because he's obviously going to start fighting Karrion Kross right at the top of the NXT card. But I just feel like he's the next one to be the NXT champion, and I'm hoping in 2021 he's going to get that opportunity. But yeah, the other one I was going to pick was, obviously, we are the Sami Zayn fan club. And I'm gutted in a way that he's probably going to lose the belt on the next episode of SmackDown. So fingers crossed he doesn't. But Sami Zayn, just like what Wilb said, he's just unbelievable on the mic, so underrated in the ring, and just he's been involved in so many horrible finishes, and I don't know why they're making him take pins like we were saying on SmackDowns, on pay-per-views, kickoff shows. It's just such a waste of a great talent, and I hope they would use him a bit more like that. How Kevin Owens has been given the opportunity, because I think we all love Kevin Owens as well, and it just, if you put them in the spotlight, they will perform. They will never let you down. And I just think that WWE needs to trust them a little bit more moving forward.
Cool. Right. We're just going to pause the podcast here. If you're listening, pause it too. Go and grab yourself a beer, because we've got 5 more awards to come. We've got a little quiz as well for the guys. And we're going to make some predictions for 2021. So hit pause, grab a beer, and we'll be back in a second. Okay, thank you for hitting the play button again. Season's greetings. Hope you've grabbed yourself a beer, because we are now on to award number 8. And that is for Unsung Hero of 2020. George, you want to start us off on this one?
Yeah, so my Unsung Hero is going to follow on from my Feud of 2020. And I'm going for Mr. AJ Styles. I think he can get very underappreciated just because of how good he is. You can put him with anyone and he is just money. And I think he's proven that with Taker. He sort of propped up the IC belt in SmackDown when it was sort of in the mix of the draft and stuff. And he's now, had a feud with McIntyre, which was solid. He's just brilliant. He's now helping develop this Omos. I imagine when they split, he's going to make him look $1 million as well. And I feel like he's not really at world title level, but he should be. But you can just give him anyone, be like, work with these for 3 months, and he will just make them look amazing. So I have to go AJ Styles.
I've heard that, just talking about AJ Styles, that one of his rumoured WrestleMania matches, getting it in early, is actually against Triple H, and that is just something that I would absolutely love to see.
And the thing with that as well, Triple H loves to come back for these matches, and if he picks you, you know he has the utmost respect for you. He's done it with Rollins and others, so it's almost like a higher claim now if Triple H is willing to come back for you, and he knows as well AJ at Triple H's age, he'd be able to make him look brilliant.
I think as well is just what the Undertaker said on his documentary, The Last Ride, just how highly regarded he held AJ Styles, and the responsibility he had for that last match was epic. God, you're making me want to change my own vote here. I'm actually going to go for someone maybe not who we'd all think of, but I'm going to go for MVP. I just think that since he has come back, I mean, when he first come back in the Royal Rumble, he was here so that his kid could see him wrestle, and all of a sudden he's wrestling every other week on Raw. It's an unbelievable comeback, and I just think that he's developed one of the best factions that we've seen in WWE for some years. I love him on the mic. I think he's up there with Paul Heyman and some of the others that we've mentioned. He's just so good. He does all the talking for Lashley. Lashley's not someone I've really actually liked that much, but even MVP is propelling Lashley up for me and making me like actually give him the time of day that he should be the US champ. And yeah, just love the Hurt Business. Love the way that he's built this faction up basically from scratch, and yeah, excited to see how, not just MVP but what the Hurt Business do going forward.
Well, I had 2 written down for this one: AJ Styles and MVP. So I pretty much picked it for the same reasons you guys did. So I feel like MVP is obviously just like out of nowhere, really. And he's the Hurt Business, the best faction in WWE at the moment. But I think I'm going to go out of the 2. I'm going to just pick one and pick AJ Styles for the same reason that George said. I mean, he has been so underrated, really, that he's probably still the best WWE have in the ring. And yeah, you can put him with anyone and you have a good match. And he's been around all year and delivering all year, and it's sort of just gone under the radar a little bit, because if you just think back to the match he had with Daniel Bryan for the IC belt, and it's just on the SmackDown. Do you remember that when he had so many advert breaks? But it was such a good match, and it's things like that he just doesn't get the credit for, I feel, with AJ Styles. So if you guys are happy, we'll go with AJ Styles.
100% happy with that, yeah. I mean, Jordan was almost convincing me to change my opinion before I said MVP, so...
I'm pretty sure as well, in the Rumble at the start of the year, he got injured taking a spear from Edge, and you'd never even noticed. He's just, you know, he's just around. He's just always there, and he can make... Yeah, I've said my piece on him. I just think he's world class.
The thing with AJ Styles now is obviously we're going into a new year. Just wonder how long he's got left in WWE. He's obviously probably, I don't know how old he is. I'm guessing he's maybe in his 40s, and he probably is not going to be around or be able to be on a full-time basis for much longer. So it'd be nice to see him maybe get another sort of main title, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think he. I'm pretty sure I read somewhere ages back that once this contract ends, I think he'd signed quite a lengthy one. Once it ends, I think it might be retirement for him. I know he moved to Raw because his son plays college football on the Friday. So, you know, he's getting a lot more family orientated. So I'd love just him to have one last mega run as a world champion. I think he deserves it as well.
Okay, right. The next one, and we're going to see how we sort of interpreted some of these awards now, because I've just sort of, what happened is I text the guys the awards, and they just had to go on off their own back and sort of pick, sort of read it how they wanted to. So this one is for the worst segment or match of the year, and let's go for George first.
Yeah, it's pretty wise to come for me first because I've got one, and I feel like Matt's got a whole A4 page worth. There is only one that outstands on this, and that was when they had the SmackDown women do the karaoke. It gets no worse than that.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I think you're right. There's a fair few nominees that could be brought up here, and that was one of the ones I had. That was unforgettable. Like, what the fuck was that? Like, when you're watching it, you're like, yeah, cringe TV. I think one of the worst segments I've seen, and it was, you know, it's no surprise that it drew Raw's lowest ever ratings, was the show this week that's just gone with The Miz, John Morrison and AJ Styles, you know, mocking Drew McIntyre ahead of TLC. Absolutely painful to watch. Absolutely hated it. But the worst match of the year, I mean, it goes without saying, I think, is the eye versus eye match between Rey Mysterio and Seth Rollins. Why on earth they ever got to that point where we needed to have that as a stipulation for a match, I'll never ever understand. And I'll try and forget about it, but I still have nightmares about that one now.
The first thing, I was firstly going to pick Raw Underground because I just absolutely hated it. But I've decided my vote is going for the Money in the Bank match. Just so much was wrong with it. Like, it was just a mess why they had to do two matches at once when it was inside of the building, and then they forgot how it even worked. I think Dana Brooke thought she won it because she got a replica. Yeah. And then they threw two people off the building, and then Otis won, and then he didn't do anything. I just think everything to do with the Money in the Bank this year, especially the men's one, obviously, just seems cursed. Just seems like it should just never have happened. So my vote was for Money in the Bank.
I was just going to say, I did have the whole month-long segments of Viking Raiders and Street Profits sport outings, because not only did we get more than one of those, no one wanted more than one of those, especially when both of them could have just been in the ring and actually put it on tag team matches. So that was very close. But the women's karaoke for me, I think, ironically, it was a year. I think it was near the time of year where they had their women's Evolution pay-per-view, and it was like a year on, and there's like 6 of them doing a bloody karaoke on SmackDown, and it sort of just tarnished the women's division for a month then.
Yeah, I think some of the ones we've picked have been sort of due to there being no crowd, really, because they could get away with sort of Money in the Bank on top of the building, and the eye versus eye because the crowd wouldn't be able to see the ping pong ball, whatever it was. Yeah. But with Jordan's nomination of the karaoke, I guess there's no, I don't know what they were thinking. Like it was just
I think what we've done is we've given WWE some real credit for changing, you know, things at the last minute, like the Boneyard match at Mania, like going a little bit out the box. But that TLC match, not the TLC, the Money in the Bank match. Sorry. Oh my god! Now you've brought that up, and it just brings back them feelings that you had during that match, and what a waste for all that talent. I'm sort of in agreement that was just car crash TV.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was awful. I mean, I'm pretty sure Ray died on it when he got knocked off the building.
Yeah. I think Alistair Black followed him after.
Alistair Black as well. Yeah, he's not been the same again.
Yeah, they both lost an eye and died. So they've had terrible years.
Yeah, it just seems like they were trying to push the boat out and try different things, and it just. But that one, I've picked that one over Raw Underground. It was just because it was on pay-per-view as well. So if you didn't have the WWE Network, you would have paid money for that.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement that Money in the Bank match, that's got to be one of the worst catastrophes of all time, not just this year.
I think with Raw Underground as well, we were all under the assumption that it would just stick around for a month and disappear, and it lived up to, I think, what we all expected, and it just vanished as soon as it came.
So we go for Money in the Bank on that one then. The 10th award is for the biggest disappointment of 2020. Do you want to go first, Barnsey?
Yeah, another one that I could probably reel off a few. I'll start on the same theme that we just left off with Alistair Black. Just his whole character as one, for me, is just such a big disappointment. He's such a talent, and when he come up, I was like, yes, Black's on the main roster, it's going to be amazing. And then he got involved in some horrific feuds. I mean, he was thrown off Titan Towers at Money in the Bank. He lost an eye. He come back on Raw Underground for a bit with an eye patch, and now he's obviously just disappeared off the face of the earth. So, yeah, he was one of the main big disappointments. I had Raw Underground written for what we just said. Another one for me, Retribution. What a waste. The way they built it initially was so good, and it was like, I think I said it before, I was hoping it was going to be like CM Punk leading it. And the way it come out, and it was, we've got some absolutely ridiculous names, T-Bar, Slapjack. Oh, God, no, it just, Retribution. Shocking for me. And even I've even written down Shayna Baszler, actually, as being one of the biggest disappointments, because the way she started the year, where she absolutely dismantled all the women at the Elimination Chamber, and then went on to Mania, and obviously now we know that Becky Lynch was pregnant, and, shocking match, don't ever want to see that one again, but yeah, she for the talent that she's got, I feel like she has to be included in the biggest disappointment for me of 2020, and the way she's just now with Nia. So there's a few. I don't take whatever one you want out of there, really.
I think with Black, I wish, like Nakamura said earlier, I just wish we could have the NXT Black back as well, because he was so good. When he main evented the Takeover, just the whole aura of him. It's such a shame we've never had that on the main roster, because, again, he should be someone who should be right at the top of the card. But for me, I had one thing written down, and that was Retribution. Like you just said, you can't build something like that. No disrespect to Mustafa Ali, but you can't build something like that and then have a mid-carder lead it. As soon as that happened, you lost all faith it was going to be anything big. I mean, they're still going now on Raw, but I honestly couldn't give two Fs about it. I mean, it's just become that irrelevant. Like you said, it needed a big character, like a Punk, or it could have been anyone. It just had to be someone already well built within the company. And then you could have had Ali as like the number two, but yeah, the way they built them and then what we got was just pretty much... It's like 2020 in a summary. It's like what you want and then what we got is just two different things, and nothing else would beat it for me.
Yeah, so I've got a few names written down. I had Alistair Black written down as well, because at the start of the year he probably still is, but he was one of my favourite wrestlers to watch, and they've just sort of dumbed him down a bit. I used to love his theme music. They've changed that, changed his entrance, change his look, and I just fear for what they're going to do when they bring him back, to be honest. Like, hopefully they bring back the old one, but I just can't see him doing it. So I'd Alistair Black written down. Also had King Corbin, actually, because I just feel that he is, on his day, one of the best heels, and I just can't even think of anything he's done this year. And he's been around. Some of them have obviously not been around for whatever reason, but he's been there the whole year, and he's not really done anything. It's just a bit of a shame, really. But the main one I had written down, which you guys haven't said, is Rhea Ripley. Because if you think at the start of the year, she was probably the hottest female in the company. She got a match with Charlotte at WrestleMania, and then really nothing's really happened. It's just feel like it's almost been a really disappointing year for her. Like, it's been good. Well, I was hoping that she'd get called up to the main roster. That hasn't happened. You'd think that maybe get another reign of the NXT Women's Championship. That hasn't happened. And I don't know, really. I still think that if she gets called up, she can easily be in one of the main events of the women's matches. But I just feel this year is just, I don't know, especially since WrestleMania, it's really sort of passed her by.
I think Rhea is a great one, actually. That Mania match was the worst booking decision, having Charlotte win of 2020, because she was red hot and they just took her off the tracks with that Mania loss. Especially when you saw Flair's reign as NXT champion, it was very half-hearted. I mean, she lost it pretty soon afterwards. And if you had Rhea win that, then maybe abdicate the belt and then move up to the main roster, she would have come up red hot, and she could have slotted into, especially when you've lost Flair and Becky on Raw, she could have slotted into Raw and really made herself a massive star ready for when they both come back. So, yeah, I didn't think of her, but that is a really good shout, actually, because from Rumble challenging Charlotte and then their feud, it was all brilliant. And now since then, she's sort of way down the card with of the NXT women.
She's even had to have a stint, going against the Robert Stone brand and just some ridiculous things. And when her music hits on NXT, you're like, it's like almost, do you remember when Stone Cold's music hit? You're like, business is about to pick up, like Rhea Ripley's coming. And you always got that. Whenever I'm watching NXT and her music hits, I'm always like, it's a big fight feel when she's involved. So yeah, that's another one you can definitely add to the list, Rhea Ripley. I mean, you'd think that she's definitely going to be one of the stars of 2021 if we had to make a prediction now. So hopefully, if she gets this award, she can be the one next year we're talking about as, potentially getting one of the top 2 awards that we spoke about at the start of the pod.
Yeah, I think we'll let Rhea Ripley and Aleister Black share this one, because I feel that them two are two that definitely we want to see have the most improved year going into 2021. And there's no reason that both can't be sort of challenging for top titles in the main roster, let alone NXT if Rhea stays down there. So, yeah, we'll let them two share it.
You just think with Aleister Black, I wonder if any of the real life sort of relationship that he's got with Zelina Vega's having any impact on him now, because obviously she's gone against WWE and left them for whatever she's doing. So, yeah, it'd be interesting if we actually do see Aleister Black come back. He's sort of one that I've been thinking that would be a pretty big scoop to go to AEW now. So, yeah, we'll see what happens.
I think the only positive you can take from Black is the time he's had off is always like it's allowing fans to forget what had just come, and he could just come back as the old Aleister Black. But we'll see what the future has in store for him. Hopefully, good things. Otherwise, I would have the same opinion as I have on Nakamura. If he had to leave WWE to thrive, I would much rather see that and watch them thrive, because both of them are just 2 of my favourite superstars when they were on NXT.
Yeah. The next of the 11th award is for Breakthrough Star of 2020. For me, I thought this was an easy one, so I just went Jey Uso. When you look back to where he was maybe this time last year to where he is now, he's in the main events. He's main evented SmackDown for so many weeks in a row. And yeah, he's just improved so much, and I feel that this year has really been his breakthrough year. George?
I went for Keith Lee. I know he's staggered a little bit lately on Raw, but I feel what they gave him on NXT, he's had his own 24 now on the network, which is always a sign of things to come. I feel like what he's achieved and then what else can come is huge. I mean, I wouldn't put it past him winning the Rumble. I know there's a lot of talk around Big E, but I think it could be between the 2 of them. I think if Keith Lee won the Rumble and then went on to Mania and won the title, I wouldn't put it past WWE doing that. I feel like they're quite hot on him as well. So yeah, my breakout star went for Keith Lee.
I also thought this was quite an easy category, but I've gone for someone different to both of you guys as well. I was just going to say about Keith Lee, I think I said to you, George, the other day, just over WhatsApp, that I actually would quite like him to join the Hurt Business and be like, the one who goes on to win the Rumble and then the main event at Mania as part of the Hurt Business, and just continue them to have the gold centered around that faction. I'm not sure if that will ever play out, but it was just sort of a fantasy prediction I sort of mentioned. The breakthrough star of the year I went for was Kyle O'Reilly, actually. For me, at the start of the year, he was just someone who was a part of Undisputed Era, mainly involved in the tag matches, and now he's ending the year, and he's sort of like the leader. He's the one going for the belts. He at War Games, he was the one who managed to get the pinfall to win it for the Undisputed Era. He had obviously a contender for match of the year with Finn Balor. And now I just feel like he's highly regarded as, he's up there with Adam Cole now as being one of the best in the faction. So I went for Kyle O'Reilly.
Yeah, I think we've got three decent nominations for this. I think this might be another one we have to put on a Twitter poll.
Bang on the money, mate.
Yeah, I agree with both of us. I mean, Keith Lee I did think about, but I guess he was already a sort of a single sort of challenge. That's the only was with Jey Uso. I feel he sort of come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think back to early parts of the year, he was in his having tag matches, and now he's definitely one of the main parts of SmackDown. So that's why I picked him.
You think as well with Jey, like before this as well, who's sort of having issues. It was coming out publicly with WWF, and like they were on the card, off the card. Like there seemed to be big issues with Usos and Naomi. With I don't know if it was around their booking with WWE or just the back room of it. So to go from that as well to where he is now, I mean he's rightfully up there for breakout star, definitely.
We'll put this one onto the Twitter poll and see what wins. I think. The last award of this evening to give out is the best pay-per-view of 2020. So who wants to start off with this one?
I'm happy to throw my name in the hat for this one. I went for Hell in a Cell. And the reason I went for that was because it had the best match of the year for me. I mean, it started with Reigns and Uso, and the rest of the pay-per-view I was like, God, how the hell are they going to live up to it? But yeah, we saw the match of the year to start, and then it just developed and continued with Orton beating McIntyre in the main event. And I just thought the whole pay-per-view was not only quite unpredictable, but had some of the best wrestling that we'd seen throughout the whole year on pay-per-view. And yeah, I'm going to say Hell in a Cell for me.
George,
well, I went back to the very first pay-per-view of the year, and that was the 2020 Royal Rumble. Main reasons for it, I think, like Wilby said earlier on this pod, it was, I can't remember a better Rumble in recent history. The matches that sort of went aside it were good matches, like entertaining. They didn't overshadow the Rumble, and then just in the Rumble itself, it had the right pops, and it just seemed to get everything right. And I know we've all adapted to no crowds at pay-per-views, but a crowd at a Rumble is just something special when they're all counting down the 10. Like it just, like Mania, just elevates that pay-per-view. So for me, I had to go for the Royal Rumble.
I went for Hell in a Cell as well. I wanted to sort of pick one that didn't have a crowd, just because I felt like the Royal Rumble just had that advantage of having the crowd. And I agree, it had the best Rumble that we've probably seen in our lifetime, really, or while watching wrestling. But I just felt that Hell in a Cell just had 3 cell matches, which were all sort of completely different, and they all sort of stood up in their own right. And I just thought it was really, really good. So maybe surprisingly good pay-per-view. So I went for Hell in a Cell as well.
Yeah, after Hell in a Cell, I had the Royal Rumble, and then I actually had Tables, Ladders and Chairs. I think they were, for me, the best 3. I didn't delve into NXT because I just think their takeovers are always excellent. But for the main show, you're getting 2-3 million people watching every month. Yeah, like you said, Hell in a Cell just pipped it for me.
I have no issues with Hell in a Cell being the best pay-per-view. It was quality. Yeah.
Cool.
Hell in a Cell.
Right. That's the awards done. Let us know on Twitter if you agree or disagree with any of these. We're going to have a couple of polls up so you can sort of help us decide on a couple of them. Let us know what you think, really. Quickly now, we're just going to do a little quiz. So what it is we're between Jordan and Barnsey, and I'm just going to shout out a title, and you've got to tell me who was the champion on the first day of 2020. So we'll start off with a nice easy one. The WWE Championship.
Brock Lesnar.
Yep, correct. Universal Champion.
Bray Wyatt.
Yep.
Wow.
1-1. It's exciting on this podcast.
This is completely impromptu. I didn't prepare for this, Rob.
Yeah.
Intercontinental Champion.
AJ Styles.
No.
No, God.
Throw it over to Barnsey if you want it.
Daniel Bryan.
No. Shinsuke Nakamura.
Oh yeah,
God, forgot about it.
Yeah, forgot about
that. Jesus.
The US champion.
Who had the US belt start of the year? Aleister Black?
No. Throw it to George.
I can't remember.
I know it's not him, but I've... No.
I know we're not live, but you can hurry up a bit.
I'm going to go with Apollo... No. Rey Mysterio.
Hey. For those, we've just cut out about 2 minutes of them thinking. The answer is Andrade.
Oh, yeah.
What about the Raw Tag Champs?
Street Profits.
No.
The Raw Tag Champs?
Yeah.
The Revival?
No. Viking Raiders.
Viking Raiders.
Still 1-1. SmackDown Champs.
The Usos.
The New Day.
New Day. Who's the New Day?
Yeah.
Jordan.
Yeah, New Day.
I was just going with the percentages on that one.
The Raw Women's Champ.
Becky Lynch.
Yeah, Becky Lynch. 2-2. Yeah. The SmackDown Women's Champion.
Charlotte Flair.
No.
No. Was it Carmella?
No, Bailey.
Oh yeah, Bailey was in the longest run. Yeah.
Right, we've got how many? We've got 3 more, so still to play for. the women's tag champs.
The Iconics.
No.
Asuka and Kairi Sane.
Correct.
Oh.
3-2. NXT champion.
Adam Cole.
Adam Cole.
Adam Cole.
Correct. And the last one we got is the NXT Women's Champion.
Rhea Ripley.
Yeah.
Oh, was it? I thought, did she win it just before the run? Yeah, she won it.
Yeah.
Because she wasn't champion.
It's funny, just after the NXT takeover. Jordan wins it 4-3.
Oh, epic.
Just
so basically, listeners, just judge us on our content, not on our knowledge.
Yeah, I was just going to say, just for anyone, all those listeners, we do actually watch the product. We're not like...
After that quiz, I'm not so sure myself.
Yeah.
All right, so let's just finish up on this podcast then. Let's make a few predictions, shall we? Who can you see winning the Royal Rumble, the men's and the women's? Just one name for each.
For the men's, I'll go Big E. Or women's, I will say... Rhea Ripley.
Yeah, to be different from Matt, because I think Big E has a great shout, I'm going to go Keith Lee. And then for the women's, I am going for Peyton Royce, just because of the soft spot she has in my heart.
So on the men, I was going to say Keith Lee as well. And on the women's, I think either Bailey or Bianca Belair. I'll probably I think Bianca Belair maybe. I feel like she's...
Especially after her performance from last year, she was unbelievable, wasn't she?
Yeah, it would make sense, wouldn't it, as well? So that'd be a good match. Yeah. Next off, just maybe 4 matches that you want to see in your WrestleMania main event. Base it maybe around your titles, or maybe a feud that you want to sort of see.
Well, I'll definitely throw out there Roman against Drew McIntyre. I'm not sure if it will happen, but that's the fantasy match in my head at the moment.
Yeah. If I had to pick 4 fantasy matches, two immediately that come to my mind are a Roman Drew and Sami Zayn AJ Styles. The other two.
Well, I was going to say AJ against Triple H, just for me personally, just from a nostalgia point of view with Triple H and AJ being the best.
Yeah.
I just think them two at Mania were just wow.
Because we spoke about them both for being underutilized, if we could have an NXT version of Nakamura versus Black, that would be outrageously good. That would definitely have to be a dream match for me as well.
In terms of the women's title, I'd probably like to see maybe a rematch of last year, maybe Rhea Ripley against Charlotte Flair with a different outcome.
So I was just going to say, for me, women's match, you've got to run back Asuka Flair from their Mania, have a Mania rematch from what they did a few years back. Definitely.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I was going to say that was the Raw match, and then the SmackDown, I think, it's going to be Banks versus either Belair or Bayley, or even a triple threat between the three of them. I think that'll be quite good. And then on the men's side, I guess Drew Reigns would obviously be really good, but I just think they're probably going to keep them separate. So I'll probably say maybe Keith Lee and Drew McIntyre. That would be quite a good main event for Raw. Yes. And then SmackDown, I'd quite like to see Rollins come back as sort of the old style Seth Rollins and him versus Reigns. I think they've got you got a storyline written there, and it'd be good to sort of see them two at WrestleMania.
I was just going to say, because we're all quite big Rollins fans, who would like to see if you could give him any Mania opponent. Yeah, Reigns would be good, especially a face Rollins if he came back as old face.
Burn
Rollins.
It down.
Yeah, with that old music and stuff against this Reigns, that'd be excellent.
Yeah, and just looking at the NXT brand now, who would you like to see come up, and who can you see being sort of people we talk about as the breakthrough stars of 2021?
Well, I think the Undisputed Era are long overdue a call-up, and we've been calling for that pretty much all year. So I think if anyone's got to come up, it's got to be them. But then after them, probably, I'd like to see Rhea Ripley on the main roster now. Even, if the Gargano way, if they can continue doing what they're doing on NXT, build up a little bit more, maybe we could see them on the main roster as well, because they've been in NXT for an eternity now and definitely deserve a shot at the main roster.
Yeah, Undisputed Era and Rhea Ripley, like you just said. And then I know they haven't been there very long, but I mean, just bring Cross and Bordeaux up now. I mean, they're just the thought of them being on either Raw or SmackDown, and the opportunities there would be amazing.
Yeah, you guys have pretty much said everyone I was going to say, really. I'd probably just throw in Dakota Kai into the mix as well. And also, just finally, is there anyone you sort of want to see sort of rejuvenised sort of on the main card? I'd probably say, for me, obviously Aleister Black would be one, we said, but maybe someone like Andrade as well, who sort of started off quite strong. I mean, we just found out he's the US champion at the start of the year. And then he's injured now, but it'd be good to see him sort of have a good year, wouldn't it, next year?
One person that instantly springs to mind for me is Drew Gulak. Started this year feuding with Daniel Bryan, had some absolutely unreal matches on pay-per-view, and now he's chasing the 24/7 title belt around. It's like, oh man.
Yeah, what about Daniel Bryan? Because obviously he was on the pre-show on TLC. He wasn't on the card at Survivor Series. I can't even think of. He's been back a while and not really been sort of pushed to any sort of lengths. I mean, it's been probably a bit of a disappointing year for him. Obviously, he was away for a while, but I mean, you'd like to think he'd have a better 2021, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it seems like at the moment they're sort of, as Matt said about earlier, we're hitting Rumble Mania season, so it feels like they're just saving him for either who's left or who he fancies. He's sort of at the stage now in his career where he could probably pick who he'd like to have a little feud going into Mania with. But again, I keep replaying his debut on SmackDown in my mind, and if I could just get Nakamura back, I'd be over the moon. Honestly, just go watch that back. I might even send the link into our WhatsApp group, because it's just it's so good. For a sec I did forget what he was like when he came up and done NXT, but yeah, I'd love him back.
I'll tell you what, put it on our Twitter, so all our listeners can have a look back. Is there anything else anyone wants to add for the year?
No, it's just been, like we've touched on a few times, been an unprecedented year for WWE. And I feel like just as they've gone on throughout the year, they've learned and adapted really, really well. And I'm just hoping by the time we get round to Mania, fingers crossed the vaccine's been rolled out a little bit more and we get a crowd. Because, it must be hard for the performers to be able to do what they do and have that buzz off that crowd rather than just doing it, in front of themselves. So, yeah, fingers crossed there's a crowd back for 2021 is all I would probably say.
Yeah, because Raw had its lowest viewing figures, didn't it, the other week? So hopefully things improve for them in that respect.
Yeah. I think as well, for a personal note, we all sort of, with this pandemic, we sort of, looked at, is the grass green on the other side, and set up this podcast. So, even though we haven't been doing it very long, it's been definitely one of the highlights and made wrestling a lot more enjoyable to watch. So, yeah, for all the listeners out there, thank you. And hopefully we can just keep this going because, it's damn enjoyable to do, and it probably wouldn't have come about if we never had this pandemic.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. I mean, it's something that we sort of sat down and sort of helped us fill the time. It's helped us sort of keep busy and keep in touch, and it's been really good. And yeah, we just hope everyone else is enjoying it. And we keep saying it, but if you can spread the word for us, it'll be good. I mean, we're only small. We're not the best. Don't get me wrong. There's probably better podcasts out there, but we want to just give you sort of our best and our views and something different. And we're not trying to be something we're not. We're just three mates, just sort of saying what we feel, and we hope it's coming across that way.
Yeah, well said, Wills. Well said, Jord.
Yeah, well, that's it. I think that will do us for this podcast. Just a little heads up, something I can exclusively reveal. The next few podcasts, we're going to be looking back at old Royal Rumbles. So if you want to watch them as well and then listen to our reviews of them, we're going to be looking at Royal Rumble 98, Royal Rumble 2001, and Royal Rumble 2019. So if you're a little bit bored over Christmas and into the new year, then put on them free pay-per-views, and you can join us for free podcasts coming up as we rewind the pinfall. But that's it. Happy New Year. All the best for everyone. Hope you stay safe. From me, Barnsley and Jordan, Happy New Year. That's the pinfall. Ring the bell.